All right, welcome once again, my students and students of the world, if you are viewing this from around the world. This time I'm going to do a video on actually how to graph linear patterns. So it should be pretty simple. I have here a graph paper that I'm using now as our writing medium. And so let's start this off right away with a data table that is of a linear pattern. This actually is coming from an assignment that I did with my students. So here's the data table. Oops. So let's say the t is increasing by 1 and v, using variables t and v, is increasing by 3. Okay, so how do we graph this? Well, first of all, we got to highlight on graph paper, and I do prefer my students use graph paper when they do this. Okay, don't try to make your own crude graph from your loose leaf. We have a lot of graph paper, and I can provide you with one. Okay, so the first thing I'm doing here is using a ruler. I highlighted my vertical axis and my horizontal axis. So now the question is, which one of these t or v goes on the horizontal or vertical axis? Well, usually the independent variable, t, is the one that goes on a horizontal axis, so I'm going to label that t, okay, and the vertical column I'm going to label v. And the reason why we put it high up here and not just somewhere in the middle to label these axes is because the rest of this horizontal vertical axis is going to be occupied by numbers. Okay, so now we have the vertical and horizontal axes labeled. Let's label our origin, or our zero start, ground zero sometimes people call it. And this is where we count, from here, horizontal, we count our intervals this way, positive, and up, our verticals positive this way. Okay, so now that I have these labeled, I got my origin, what do I use as intervals for my t values? Well, t values are really easy. It's only increasing by 1, but because I like to spread out this graph as much as I could, what I usually do is every 2 notches is labeled as 1. Okay, and you got to make sure that your intervals are proper, okay, that they don't change values as you go. I guess I could give you an example of what hopefully not to do when you're doing a graph. So now for the vertical, what interval should I use? And I know you can see that it is consistently increasing by 3, from 0, 3, 6, 9, but I don't really like using 3s because, well, it's, how should we say, odd to use odd numbers as intervals. I usually like use even numbers. If I was to use odd numbers, it would have to be 5s, intervals of 5, 10, 15, and that'll be used really strictly for bigger numbers. In this case, these are really small numbers, and my highest value really is, just to graph this up to 4 or 5, is really about 9 or 12. So in this case, we should have enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count every notch actually is equal to 1. So I'm going to count 1, 2, but I'm only going to label the 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Okay? Hopefully you can see that every interval really is 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So this will fit our odd numbers in here. Okay? So now to graph. First thing I'm going to graph is these values right here. Now, if any of you students recall, I guess in our area here, we, in their grade 7 courses, I do remember that in their curriculum, they were taught to plot ordered pairs, as in, in a coordinate plane. So when you're doing that, this really is like an ordered pair. It can be written like this, 1 and 0, where, in the original training, teaching of this would be x value, this would be y value, but in this case we are using t and v, which is, the same thing. Otherwise they're just horizontal and vertical axes. Okay, so I'm going to plot or find my value t first, and this is the t axis, the horizontal axis, so the value of t for 1 is right here. Okay, and from there, because the y is 0, that means I don't go up or down at all, and so my first plot, 1 and 0, is actually right here. Okay, so this, I will label this. I could even label this 1, 0 if you want. What about the next value, 2, 3? Well, if it's 2 on the t-axis and 3 on the y-axis, and I'm going to look for 3 on the y, 1, 2, 3 is right here. This is actually 2, 3. Okay, and you keep going, and so on. 3 and 6, 3 on the t value, 6 on the y, 2, 4, 6. This be 3 and 6. And finally, 4 and 9, 4 on the t, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 on the y-axis would be right here. Okay? Hopefully it's very simple. This is how you graph, a linear pattern on graph paper. And, right now I'm leaving it optional for my students to, make a straight line here. So hopefully this helps. Let's see if we can try another example. Let us try this one over here. Let us try this one over here where we actually have some negative values. So the same variables, t and v. T, let's keep it increasing at 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, just for simplicity's sake. In higher grade levels, let's say in grade 9 or 10, this is no longer going to just be 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be, increasing by 2 or 3, whatever, or even decreasing. So in this case, in this example, let's give you an example that looks like this. Okay, -4, -2, 0, and 2. Okay, so now, what is this graph going to look like? Well, it looks like it's still going to be in quadrant 1, but it looks like we're going to have some negative values of y, or pardon me, of v. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to make my horizontal axis about halfway through this vertical axis, like so. Okay, so now I'm going to label this my t axis, and this is my v axis, vertical axis, and this is still my origin, 0. So now, using the same intervals, I'm just going to use this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, even though we're not going to use 5. So now, I guess I could still use, see, this is why even number intervals are useful, because they can be used for most other graphs as well. There we go. But if you can see, if you really count each notches, they're still equal to only 1. But I'm only labeling the 2's, okay? So where is 1 and -4? Again, 1 on the t-axis, horizontal axis here, but this time -4 is actually down here. So this is 1 and -4, which is this first set of ordered pairs here, okay? Next is 2, -2, so 2, -2 is right here. Okay, 2 on the t-axis, -2 on the vertical axis, so -2, -2 is here. 3 and 0, 3 on the t, 0 on the y, on the v, means you don't go up or down, just stay right here. And finally, 4 and 2. 4 and 2 is here. Okay, so hopefully this video helps, and that's very simply how to graph linear patterns. Okay, biggest thing here to remember is make sure you label your axes, the origin, Label your axes, your vertical and horizontal axes. Label what the origin is, and make sure you're using correct intervals. Okay. I guess I should do an example of what an improper interval would be. Okay, so I guess I'll just explain it. Okay, so if you were to label this axis this way, for instance, okay, this is what not to do, and well, at least I don't particularly like. Let's just say this is X and Y axis now. Okay, some people will have a data table where let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they will have, let's say 5, and then 8, and then 11, and then 14. Okay, we got our origins. This is why you shouldn't just use what you have here on the data table, because some people will do this, and this is completely wrong. Okay, we'll use 5 here, and then 8, and then 11. This is wrong because you're telling me in the beginning, from here to here, 2 notches, 2 squares is equal to 5. And then you changed your mind and said, nope, 2 notches from here to here is 3. So it's inconsistent, so don't try to depend on just what's on the data table, please. Okay? So I hope this video helps. And again, if you have any disclaimers or comments, leave a comment in the description below, and hopefully I'll see you guys later. Thank you for your time and your attention. Bye bye for now.